Okay, so you're running ads for your agency or a business that you're helping, and you cannot figure out predictable ad metrics, which means you as a marketer or your team does not have the proper systems in place to scale. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the exact system that we use for our partners, the easiest way to predict ad metrics with a simple sheet, and the understanding behind why all of it is important in the first place. Welcome back everybody, Manhar here. If this is your first time watching, and welcome. And if you are a regular, thanks for tuning in as always. So let's talk about this simple system that we use, our partners use as well, to analyze ad metrics and understand how our spend, whatever X amount of spend that might be, 10K, 20K, 30K, 50K plus, how it will perform on Meta. All right, so quick transition into the sheet. As you can see, I do want to preface though, before we get into anything, that this sheet is made for the VSL to book a call funnel. I've seen this used for different funnels as well. You can use this for webinars. You can use this for a bunch of other funnels as well. You're just going to have to go into the sheet, change it a little bit, adapt it a little bit to your strategy, and you should be chilling from there. All right, so let's talk about the first thing you probably see on the sheet, which is going to be these three sections up here: underperforming, conservative, and ambitious. And these just correspond to the worst case scenario of your ads performing, the average between the best and the worst case, and then obviously the best case scenario as well. So everything that you see here is just going to correspond to those three values. So let's talk about the first sort of section that we have here, which is traffic. And this really just relates to ads overall. But right before I get into it, I just want to say that the blue columns that we have here are values that we can actually change. And then the gray ones are just values calculated by the sheet itself. So if you know how meta ads work, usually there's two phases that we have. We have the testing phase and then we have the scaling phase. In the testing phase, we usually have just a lower budget. We're testing out our creatives, how they're performing, and then obviously just gauging what the metrics look like. And in the scaling phase, we double down on the winning creatives and put more budget towards them. So when we're looking at this sheet, the first thing I want you to take away is ad spend wise, in the scale phase, let's say in the testing phase, we got to 20K, just an example. Now in the scale phase, we're putting all of that $20,000 back into ads. So across all these, we're gonna have the same ad spend. Where it gets different is gonna be our CPMs, and this is gonna be the first metric that we're gonna change. So based on what your values look like in the testing phase, you can kind of gauge if your CPMs are good, are they bad, what are they looking like? And based on that, you can make your assumptions on what your best case, worst case, and conservative values look like. Same goes for CTR, and then everything else will be filled up for you. The reason why this is important is because when you're in the scale phase, you can kind of see where you're heading towards, right? If you're going to be in the red section, you know something needs to change with your ads ASAP, otherwise you're cooked. But if you're between the yellow or green phase, or even, best case scenario, you're always in the green side, then nothing really needs to be changed with the ads. You might just want to focus on your system more overall. All right, so moving on from traffic, let's get into the lead capture now. And honestly, let me just zoom in a little bit as well. Okay, now in our case, we're running a VSL to book a call funnel, and we're not running a lead form before people actually end up on our landing page or on our website. In some cases, some businesses, what they do is they like to own their audience, have them for marketing purposes, and they capture their information. For us, we don't do that. All of our unique clicks that come from the traffic actually end up on our page. And you can actually see, based on what your worst, best case look like, what your cost per leads will look like, which is also very important to gauge at, especially at scale. So you can kind of see how much it's going to cost you to acquire a lead and how much it's going to cost to actually make them a buying customer as well. All right, so once we've gotten our lead capture done, and we know the amount of leads that are actually coming onto our page, now it's time to get our true leads, okay? And when I say true leads, these are the people that are actively going to be engaged in our funnel. So for our funnel, what we do is we have a landing page, VSL, and underneath the VSL, we have a application form. And once people actually submit the application form, they are redirected to specific spots in our funnel. So for our application rate, looking across the board, we took a nice average of 5%. You can go ahead into Typeform, go high level, kind of look at what your application looks like and put that percentage here. And this will tell you the true leads that actually come out of your landing page. And these leads, they can be qualified, they can be unqualified, they can be partial submits. All in all, this is going to be your total data of the amount of leads that come onto your landing page and come out of it as well. So once you've kind of gauged the true leads coming in and out of your funnel, now it's time to get one of the most important metrics, which is knowing the qualified leads coming in and out of your system. And in our case, this is set up pretty simply. We have an in-house system that we use to track our applications and all that kind of information. And we have it set up in such a way where if on our Typeform application, somebody is qualified, then they have to book in. Otherwise, the application does not count as a qualified application. So for us, our scheduled call rate is simply just going to be the percentage of qualified applications. And if we look at the gray values here, we can kind of see across the board what our scheduled calls will look like and our cost per calls as well. So you can kind of see, like, in contrast, on the underperforming side, we have 66 calls with almost a $300 cost per call. And then on the ambitious side, you're looking at 210 calls with a almost $100 cost per call. So already you can kind of map out in your head, hey, my ticket price is, let's say, for example, 3K, 4K, and I'm looking at a cost per call being $300 without knowing if it's going to be a no-show, if it's going to be a cancellation, is it even going to be a close? So you can kind of see, like, hey, if my ads are performing this way and all my metrics are looking like this, then something's wrong. Okay, and this is where I'm going to kind of touch bases on playing around with the numbers first, which is also the cool thing you can do with this sheet. You can kind of play around with your numbers to kind of see what your numbers need to look like in order for you to cut down these cost per calls, bring in more scheduled calls, have more applications completed, have more leads come in, and all of that kind of good stuff. Now, going from our cost per call metrics and going from our scheduled calls metrics, we're diving deeper into calls, and we're also diving deeper into sales because these also go hand in hand with your funnel analysis and your ads analysis as well. So considering show up rate first, if this is your first time running this kind of sheet, understanding funnel economics and ad spend, and let's say you have the proper systems in place, you have dialers, you have people sending resources to your actual leads, and you're actually following up with them time to time, you can put a sub 60%, sub 70%, because that's a healthy show up rate. Okay. But if you know your show up rate isn't the best, then you might want to actually put that exact number in because you don't want to overpromise yourself in terms of ad results, right? The last thing you want to do is see this sheet and put yourself in this delusion that, hey, my ads are going to perform well, even though you're entering the wrong metrics. So make sure you're putting the accurate metrics in if you have that data. But if you don't, then just put a healthy number in as well, and that works. But from there, we get our total live calls, and we also get our cost per live call as well, right? So underperforming side, we have 39 calls booked with a $505 cost per live call. And on the ambitious side, we have 126 live calls being taken by the closers, or you, if you're taking the calls, at a $200 cost per live call. And if we, kind of build off of this and go into sales as well, let's say we have a close rate of 30%. This will tell you the amount of deals that you're closing, first of all, but it will also tell you the cost per sale, which I think is the golden goose. So now you can kind of really see, hey, if my ticket price is 3K, it will cost me almost $2,000 to close a deal. So you're only really profiting $1,000. And if you only close 11 deals, then you're only going to get $11,000 in profit, right? But even then, that's really not profit because you're going to be spending on commissions, you're going to be spending on softwares, you're going to be spending on other things. So really, you're going to be left with zero to none profit if you're on the underperforming side of things. Oh wow, we just went all the way to the top. But on the contrary, like let's say you're on the ambitious side, now you're going to be closing a sale at $500, and let's say your ticket price is 3K. Hey, you're making a really good margin off of this, okay? And you're closing a fuck ton of deals as well. Lastly, it really comes down to tying it all together, and this is done with the economics, right? So this is the last thing you're going to have to insert on the sheet, which is just going to be your average sales price. So for us, that's going to be $3,000. We're just going to use that as an example. And based on that, we can kind of see our revenue now across the board as well. So underperforming side of things, we're looking at $35,000. And then on the ambitious side, you're looking at 100K plus. So if you remember before, I said that the best way to use this sheet is have your testing phase done. That way you can get some data and then use it for your scaling phase. So you can kind of see where you're at and where you need to be. And so if your ad spend is $20,000 and your target is 100K, this sheet kind of literally maps out where your metrics need to be in order for you to reach that 100K mark. And let's say halfway across your scaling process, it doesn't really look like you're going to hit 100K. Well, you can go back and you can kind of see what metrics of yours are interfering with that process of you getting to 100K, and you can fix those. You can run diagnosis, you can look at the metrics, you can see what's wrong with that and fix it. And then lastly, you get to ROAS here as well. You can kind of see ambitious side being 5.7 and underperforming side being at 1.8x. So lots of cool things you can do with the sheet. Helps you tons of when you're in the scaling process. The cool thing about it is you can always fix something with it, right? For example, like if we're experiencing not enough leads through the system, then we might want to go back to the applications and kind of see what's going on there, right? And it doesn't always need to mean that, hey, something's wrong with the application form itself, but it tells us that something across that process is in the wrong. So now we can go in, we can evaluate, hey, is it our VSL that's interfering with the leads? Is it our landing page? Is it our copy? Is it something else that's affecting the amount of leads that are coming in? So we can go back and we can kind of fix those things, right? And this is going to be that one sheet that's going to help you reach that 100K per month mark, or even higher, especially if you're scaling with ads and you need something predictable. Now, with everything I've shown you guys today, hopefully you guys have picked up a thing or two when it comes to scaling with ads and how to track them. Again, my role is simple. I provide surface level information to individuals. That way they can become aware of problems in their system or just get some insight so they can scale aggressively and hit those 100K per month marks. Now, if you watch this far into the video and you're really on the fence and you're thinking like, hey man, I really love what this guy's talking about, and maybe I want some sort of systems built into my business, or I just need help from this guy in general, there's going to be a link in the description. You guys can book a call with me. The link might be available there. The link might not be available there, depending on how I feel. Regardless, if you guys have any questions, DM me on my Instagram directly. Link is also in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.